Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the it's September, isn't it? Gosh, I just don't know where I am. The September 2014 Coffee Pot webinar. Today we have an exciting topic, something brand new, something kind of hard to show. It's going to be one of my most challenging webinars to date, but we will get through it, and we will take a look at something called Sony's digital paper. But before we do, a little bit of housekeeping. I want to let everybody know how to move around in the control panel, and that's what you're looking at right now. This is the GoToWebinar control panel, and this is how you control your experience and how you interact with us. Now, if you are not seeing this, that's because you probably have been to one of these before and you know how to get rid of it. If you press this button here that looks like an arrow pointing to the right, it will take this big thing here and slide it right off your screen. When that happens, this arrow changes to one that points to the left. Clicking it again will cause this to slide back onto your screen. Why would you want to do that? Because you have a question and you're shy. So you would type that question right here. Remember to hit the send button. Leanne, our humble and very brightly dressed moderator, will recognize that you have a question. She will interrupt me at the opportune time, and she will ask your question on your behalf. Now, if you have follow-up questions, or if I'm not answering the question the way you want me to, you just keep typing questions here and keep remembering to hit send, and Leanne will keep interrupting me and making sure that your question gets answered. Now, if you're not shy, you always do have this option. You can click this button here that looks like a hand with an arrow pointing upwards in front of it. That will cause Leanne to be notified that you have raised your hand. She will do the same thing. She will interrupt me at the opportune time, but at that point she will unmute you, and you and I will have a direct conversation, and you can ask your own question. You will remain unmuted. That channel of communication will remain open until I think you're done. I'm done answering your question. So again, feel free to interrupt me or to keep me on track if I'm not answering the question that you think I should be answering. So without any further ado, we're going to press a couple buttons here and get out of here. And now, what is digital paper? That's hard to imagine. So what we did, since we don't have the technology and really frankly didn't want to mess with trying to show this to you live, because doing live camera broadcasts in a live webinar like this can be rather nerve-wracking for one thing and difficult for another and hard to orchestrate for a third. What we've done instead is we have taken a series of videos. So what you're looking at here is the picture from the first video, and what you can see is that this is the digital paper device right here, and I'm going to make this full screen so I can move my cursor around. And it looks like a tablet. It is a tablet. It is exactly the size of a legal pad. And in a minute, we'll see what it looks like when it's on. You're looking at it in the standby mode now. But first, I want to tell you what it isn't. It is not an iPad or an Android-type tablet. You cannot play Farmville on it. You can't check your email. It does have a limited web browser, but that web browsing functionality is strictly there so that you can log into a public Wi-Fi. It is not meant to browse the web. It is not meant to read books, although reading is a part of what it does. It is not meant to do any of those things that you would do with a computer or a smartphone or a regular tablet-type device. It doesn't run apps. It doesn't do anything but allow you to write. Now, the screen, if you're to look at it, is pretty much like a Kindle. It's a white screen, and when you write on it, it produces black text. So if it's nothing but a writing device, what's it for? Well, I feel that it closes a gap that we have in quote-unquote the paperless office. Now, you've got to understand that I've been doing this since the late 70s. My father was a patent attorney, and he bought a Tandy Radio Shack Model 1 computer in the late 70s that actually used a cassette tape to store data, programs, documents, and that's how I got into this. So we've been hearing about and talking about the paperless office virtually since then. Probably a little bit more toward the middle of the 1980s when IBM had come out with their first PC in '81, and lawyers pretty much embraced that, plus the Apple that was available at the time, which was a precursor to the Macintosh. And from that point on, people have been talking about a paperless office. It's never happened. I'll tell you, my desk right now has got pieces of paper strewn all over it, and I have a Sony digital paper. So we can't really have a paperless office the way things are right now for a couple reasons. Let's say you've got a brief that you need to edit, and you're going to mark it up. What do? You print it out and you write on it. What do you do if you want to share those notes with, now, don't interrupt and say, but wait, Paul, you can make notes on a PDF. Yes, I know. You can open up your PDF software and annotate and insert notes that you type. But you can't circle things, at least not that easily, and you can't cross things out. And you can't write this note right above that word, and you can't do the things you can do when you print a piece of paper and mark it up that way. So you print this piece of paper and you mark up this brief or whatever it is that you're marking up. What do you do with it then? You scan it. If you're going to email it to your partner or to an associate or to a paralegal or to whoever, you scan it, get it back into the computer, and send it somewhere. Or maybe you're going to send it to the client, so it's not even with your own network that you're going to want to share it. But the point is, you have this printer that produces a document that you then mark up, that you then have to scan, or somebody has to scan to get back into the computer to send to somebody else. That is the gap, in one sense, that is the gap that this device closes. To me, that same gap is closing, that same theory, that same use of the digital paper is closing another gap, which is signing documents. What do you do when you sign documents? Let's say you're an estate planning attorney. Maybe you're not, but let's use an estate planning attorney as an example, and you insert your own types of documents that you're going to be signing or having your client sign. What do? You print that will or trust. You print the ancillary documents, the durable healthcare power of attorney, all the stuff that goes with it. You take them into the conference room and you have your client sign them. Then what do? You scan them and get them back into the computer. Now, I'm not going to provide the basis for argument right now about whether an electronic signature is valid. That will vary from one arena to another. There are some estate planning and probate attorneys that are arguing whether or not they need to keep the originally signed document, and therefore an electronically signed document is not valid. Other attorneys have been doing this for a while. So signing documents is another area that I see this digital paper device really, really closing the gap. Now, it hooks into your infrastructure. In a minute, I promise, we'll watch these videos and I'll explain what's going on. But I want to give you some background first. If it was just something that you could write on, it wouldn't be that beneficial, because, well, how do you get the things from your device to the computer, or how do you get things from the computer to the device? Well, they use something called File Cloud, which is an online service, much like Dropbox, but it's hooked into your device. And much like Dropbox, that File Cloud can be a staging area, if you will, a cloud-based staging area for things that reside in a certain folder on your hard disk. So when something gets put in the right folder on your hard disk that is synced up to File Cloud, and File Cloud is synced up to the digital paper, within a matter of minutes, that something, that PDF, that document to be signed, whatever it is, ends up on your digital paper device. When you are done using it on the digital paper device, you hit a Send To button, and it sends it back to File Cloud. And just like Dropbox does, when you put something in Dropbox, it kind of, at least if it's set up right, it can sync back to that folder on your computer. Same thing happens here. So you send the document that you've worked on the digital paper, or that you've marked up, or that you've signed, or your client has signed, you send it back to File Cloud, and that just happens automatically, as you'll see, and then it pops up on your computer. Now, if you're using Practice Master, or heaven forbid Time Matters, or World Docs, if you're using any of these systems for document management, then we would then be able to build hooks, if you will, into that folder on your hard drive that FileCloud is syncing to. So stick with me. Let's say you've got something in World Docs or Practice Master that you want to put on the digital paper. You send it, and in World Docs we can just give you a send to button that says send to digital paper. You send it to the right place, and it appears on your digital paper. You mark it up, you have your client sign it, whatever it is that you're doing with that document, you hit send to on the digital paper device, it sends it back to that folder, which in essence puts it right back into World Docs. World Docs and Practice Master both have the ability to quote-unquote check out files. So of course you want to make sure that nobody messes with this document while you've got it on your digital paper. So you set up your send to button so that it automatically checks it out. So I pull up the series of 5 documents that I need to take into the conference room to sign with my estate planning client. I send them to digital paper. Moments later, they appear on my digital paper device. I walk into the conference room. I have the client sign them. I hit the send to button on the digital paper device. It sends them back. And then the last thing I do is I check them back into World Docs, or I check them back into Practice Master. That's the gap that I find this device closing. Because absent that, there's a whole bunch of hoops that have to be jumped through in order to not so much to get the paper document out. Everybody knows how to print a document, but to get the signed document or the annotated document back into the document management system. And this closes that gap. And there's no paper. No paper is used. No printing is done. No scanning is done. No paper ends up in the recycle bin because it was used for that brief hour-long period. Everything happens on the digital paper. So, with that said, let's take a look here at this. I'm going to get out of full screen real quick because I'm old and I can't remember which video I'm looking at. And I'm going to bring my mouse up here and hover. Okay, so this is taking notes. So we're going to use taking notes and watch the video, and I'm going to describe what happens. So in case you're wondering, that is my hand. If it's a little choppy, I think at least it will, or it could give me an error. If it's a little choppy once I get this back, then I think at least that we'll still be able to see what's going on. Now maybe we've timed out on how long we can look at this, so bear with me for 1 second. I'm going to go back to my Google Drive. I'm going to go back to my taking notes video, and we'll try this again. Now, that, as I said, is my hand, and I am not a model. I'm not one of those hand models that you hear about, so you'll have to bear with me. This is the device as it looks when it turns on. I am putting in a pin. The pin is not necessary. You can set the device up to either be locked and require a pin or not be locked and, of course, not require a pin. The first screen that we're going to get to is going to be kind of a home screen where we list all the documents and notes. We do look at documents and notes as separate things. So I have clicked on notes, and it's showing me a list of the notes that I am already storing, and I've told it I want to add a new one. I am very quickly entering a 1-character name on the type pad that comes up to make the video go a little quicker. But you can put whatever you want in there and to name the document. Now, as you'll see, this piece of paper looks like a piece of paper. It's very familiar. Now, look at my hand. My hand is resting on the device. If anyone's ever tried to write on an iPad or any type of tablet using one of the apps that allows you to do this, a couple things going on here. First off, you can't really rest your hand on the device without getting smudges. In fact, everyone I've shown this to that has used another type of device before has said, immediately has tried to write without touching the thing. You don't do that here. You do it like you would on a normal piece of paper. Now what I'm doing here is I'm clicking on Save as New. I'm giving it a new name, and so I've taken a document, created it, taken a note and created it, and now I'm saving it, and I could go on and make more changes and save as a new document or save over the top. You'll notice also when the stylus comes back into focus, it's a very pinpoint type surface. It's a very precise writing instrument. If you've ever tried to write with a stylus on an iPad or another tablet, or at least the stylus I had, because of the technology, it's more of a kind of rubber cone that appears at the end of the stylus. It's very difficult to write with, very difficult to make very fine notes with. This one here is more like a pen point, very precise, very thin. Now here I'm pulling up a document, a PDF, and instead of pulling up a blank sheet of legal pad, I am pulling up a PDF that I have sent to the digital paper device, and I'm making notes, and I'm circling things, and I'm able to really zero in on exactly what I want to write. It's not like annotating a PDF on a computer where you have to type and kind of get the note close to what you want to note on. Here it's more a matter of simply being able to write freeform wherever you happen to want to write. I'm going to pause this video. I'm going to get out of full screen, and we're going to go to another video that shows a scenario where I and Mary Jo sign a HIPAA form. Mary Jo needs to have a HIPAA form signed with us because we have signed HIPAA forms with our clients, some of our clients. And so this video shows that HIPAA being signed. It's not a real HIPAA. It doesn't have Mary Jo's real address on it, but it will give you the idea of what it is we're talking about. Now, hopefully this won't error out, but if it does, I will roll with it. Same sort of thing happening initially. We need to sign into the device, and what we're going to do right off the bat, I've moved into full screen mode, is we're going to go pull up the document that I, from World Docs, sent to my digital paper. When I sent it to digital paper, it automatically checked it out so that nobody else can be messing with it right now. And when I get done here, it's going to get sent back and checked back in so that at that point somebody could pull it up and edit it if they had the rights to do so. I'm swiping to the right or to the left to get to the right page. I'm signing. Just like you would on an iPad or an Android tablet, you swipe to the left to move to the next page. You swipe to the right to move to the page that's before. You can bring your fingers together in a kind of a pinching motion to look at more sheets or to zero in, or to actually zoom out, and then you can bring your fingers apart in order to zoom in. Mary Jo is now signing the document. By the way, it weighs less than a full legal pad. If you have a legal pad in one hand that's got, hasn't had any sheets used, and you have this device in the other hand, you'll see that it weighs less than that legal pad. Kind of amazing in that regard. Very durable. I carry it around in a backpack, and it has not suffered any damage to date. The one thing that I'll say is that the case that it comes in, you'll see it in a minute, I believe. There's a little thing that sticks out that the stylus goes in. That has come off. You can see it up at the top now. That has come off, and I am now responsible for keeping the stylus with me at all times if I'm carrying this digital paper. That's one thing that I have suggested that they change, is to make a case that's going to be a little more durable and going to have the ability to keep that stylus right with the device, because that's important. You can't really write on it without the stylus. At this point, we're sending it back. We put it in a folder where we had checked it out to. We're going to acknowledge that we really want to do that, and it's done. So in about 2 minutes, I have taken this digital paper into my hypothetical conference room. I have signed my part of the document. I've turned it around, and Mary Jo has signed hers. I've pressed a couple buttons and sent it back to World Docs, and if I go into my World Docs now and check it in, it'll be back in World Docs. No paper was printed, no paper was recycled or thrown away. There's nothing to shred. There's no no trace of this document once it gets off the digital paper and back into World Docs. It's gone as far as any sort of remnants would preclude. I'm going to go ahead and get out of full screen, I think. And I have one thing to tell you before we open up the floor for questions. People are wondering, how much does this cost? I'll tell you a story before I tell you how much it costs. I think that it's new technology, and so it's priced at a point that new technology gets priced at. I think that the price is going to come down. I don't know when. I also think that eventually somebody other than Sony will come up with a device like this, but again, I don't know when. Now, my perspective is that it's a high-priced device. It is $1,200 for one digital paper. But perspectives vary. I was at a client's in Indianapolis a few weeks ago. I showed it to the administrator, and she and I agreed that we thought it was high-priced. We took it into a conference that we were having about a litigation matter that I'm helping them with, and one of the two attorneys that was in the room asked about it, naturally, and I let him play with it and showed it to him, and he wrote on it. And then I turned to this administrator, and I said, well, should I tell him how much it costs now? And she said, yes. And I told him it cost $1,200, and his response was, is that all? I have a client in Chicago that is a dispute resolution company. They are mediators and arbitrators. They are looking at giving it to their quote-unquote judges, their arbitrators and mediators, to take all the paperwork that they would normally take in a paper form into the mediation room. Right now, the administrator of this firm of mediators and arbitrators gives them a blank legal pad and several sheets of paper that have the details of the matter that they're arbitrating or mediating, and they make their notes, and then that has to get back into the system. With 16 conference rooms, I guess they have 16 arbitrators. I think it's more like 10 conference rooms. Now 16 rooms, but some of those are used as breakouts. And bottom line, they have about 10 arbitrations going on at a max. That's a lot of paper to coordinate and a lot of notes and make sure that the right notes get right back to the right case. Here, it's automatic. You send it to the proper conference room digital paper device. The judges take their notes. The client signs. The judge signs. It goes back into World Docs, and they're done. So I've told you how much it costs. I've done my best to give you a view of how it works. Do we have any questions, Leanne?
No questions.
No questions. Well, hopefully that means that in spite of the challenges that I faced in trying to show you this device that isn't a piece of software, which is normally what I'm showing people in these webinars and in these meetings that we have, I hope that means that I've done a good job. If it doesn't work out that way, you can always ask your questions by emailing me at paul.purdue, like the school, not the chicken, at attorneycomputersystems.com. I will show you here by going to our website. I'll emphasize the fact that systems is plural. If you're going to email me, I will show you that you can also contact us from this website. But beyond that, you can also see all of this video content once it's released in its recorded form. We are, of course, recording this as we perform it live. And so in a week or so, it'll show up here under Coffee Pot Webinars. So if you have any questions or want to re-watch this webinar, all you have to do is come here. Here is the registration link for what we're doing right now, but soon that'll appear as the first video down here. So everybody have a good rest of the afternoon, good rest of the month, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.